In this video, we continue into ethics describing the primacy issue of values and virtues. Both virtues and vices can be habits that lead to some ultimate destination. So which has primacy, virtues or values? A value is the good which we desire to gain or keep. A virtue is the right action by which we gain or keep it. Virtues, then, are right actions that preserve good. Vices are wrong actions that destroy good. So which has primacy, good or right? Only by knowing the value of that which is good for us can we know what action is right and wrong to do in order to gain that good. In other words, only by first knowing what is good are we able to calculate what is right and wrong. So which has primacy, ends or means? Only by knowing the end goal can we know the means to get us there. Knowing our destination across town, across country, or across the ocean determines whether our vehicle, the means, is walking, driving, or flying. Values are the end goal which give meaning to virtues. Virtues devoid of value are meaningless duties with no value. This is equivalent to putting the means ahead of the ends. Knowing the good gives meaning to righteous actions. Putting actions ahead of the good you want to accomplish is equivalent to putting the means ahead of the ends. So happiness is the ultimate good end we can shoot for. Aristotle, when describing value ethics, said, "All advice to do things or not to do them is concerned with happiness, and with the things that make for or against it. Whatever creates or increases happiness, or some part of happiness, we ought to do. Whatever destroys or hampers happiness, or gives rise to its opposite, we ought not to do." Joseph Smith, describing value ethics, said, "Happiness is the object and design of our existence, and will be the end thereof, if we pursue the path that leads to it. And this path is virtue, uprightness, faithfulness, holiness, and keeping all the commandments of God. And as God has designed our happiness, and the happiness of all His creatures, He never has, He never will institute an ordinance or give a commandment to His people that is not calculated in its nature to promote that happiness which He has designed, and which will not end in the greatest amount of good and glory to those who become the recipients of His law and ordinances." Notice we are building a happy life. When we talk about our life, we are really talking about what kind of life do we want. Notice the conditional language. If we get the principal ends correct, we have a good chance at getting the principal means correct. It doesn't say happiness is a free gift to everyone. These quotes tell us the conditions for obtaining happiness. Primacy of consciousness philosophies take the opposite stand from that of eternalism and value ethics. Primacy of consciousness philosophies rely on what is called duty ethics, which is a morality that cannot be lived. Immanuel Kant argued that it was not the consequences of actions that make them right or wrong, but the motives of the person who carries out the action. In Kant's quote, notice the abandonment of reality, consequences, cause, and effect, the removal of morality exclusively to the conscious realm. The only thing that matters in duty ethics is the state of your consciousness. Kant further said, "The majesty of duty has nothing to do with the enjoyment of life. It has its special law and its special tribunal." Kant proclaimed that the beauty of duty is that it is a law unto itself and has nothing to do with happiness. He said, "Pure practical reason does not require that we should renounce all claim to happiness, but only that the moment duty is in question, we should take no account of happiness." Kant is full of mixed premises. Use your reason to not renounce happiness, except when duty shows up and requires you turn your reason and happiness off. Duty in duty ethics requires things that you must do no matter what. This turns into the right of following a set of rules independent of what is good. Of course, this begs the question, whose rule? Who says it's right? Kant said, "Man requires a master, therefore, to curb his will, and to compel him into submission to a universal will, which may secure the possibility of universal freedom." Notice it's not your own will, of course, and not the rules of an objective reality, but a dictatorial, universal will to compel mankind into submission. Now, where have we heard that plan before? Being forced into doing the right, independent of agency. Notice the irony and contradiction of being compelled into submission to achieve universal freedom. Osama bin Laden, out of duty ethics, said, "To kill Americans and their allies, both civil and military, is an individual duty of every Muslim who is able in any country where that is possible." In other words, when men abandon reason and blindly follow authority out of duty, the inevitable outcome is death and destruction. There are many historical examples of the miserable life and eventual death by those who choose to follow duty ethics from an authority figure such as Jim Jones or David Koresh, who tell followers their unconditional duty. The September 11, 2001 attacks by the group of Islamic terrorists on the World Trade Center is a prime example of duty ethics. Osama bin Laden convinced 19 men to carry out the suicidal terrorist attack through duty ethics doctrine. As we have mentioned before, value ethics is best represented by the building of valuable things. Duty ethics is best represented by the death and destruction that comes with blind obedience to deadly rules, no matter what. When you think of value ethics, think of all the values mankind has acquired over the centuries that were required, via reason, to build the Twin Towers, such as mathematics, physics, chemistry, metallurgy, engineering, architecture, and so on. Likewise, think of all the values required, using your reason, in order for you to build your own happy life and continue to live happily in society. Duty ethics, however, leads to death, sorrow, and misery. Doing your duty, no matter what, has nothing to do with your reason or happiness. When you think of duty ethics, think of the destruction that occurred during a single day as 19 men ignored reason, life, and happiness and unconditionally obeyed what someone said was their duty. Unless you cheat by periodically switching to value ethics as a practical matter demanded by reality, this is where it ends up if you follow duty ethics consistently. Aristotle said, "Evil destroys even itself, and if it is complete, becomes unbearable." In other words, even evil can't control evil. Elder Packer said, "He, Christ, does not have to be spiteful or vengeful in order that punishment will come from the breaking of the moral code. The laws are established of themselves." So in studying the 4 ethical primacy issues, keep in mind that duty ethics is a morality that cannot be lived consistently as demanded by reality. You can die consistently by it, but not live consistently by it. So is there a conflict here? Don't we Latter-day Saints believe in doing our duty? The answer is yes. However, as you would expect by now, eternalism's definition of duty is not the same as the definition of duty from historical Christianity. The following 3-tier diagram explains how duty relates to happiness in value ethics. In Tier 1, potential happiness is a moral need we are all pursuing and attempting to fulfill. In Tier 2, eternalism's definition of duty is based on value ethics and means a chosen obligation, or something required to be done conditionally if you want to secure the associated blessing for yourself. Since it is conditional, you can choose to do or choose not to do. In duty ethics, however, the word duty means unchosen obligations, or something that you must do, denying the Tier 1 potential happiness need. Happiness is a goal. It is the moral need that makes up part of our identity. Moral needs have primacy over duties, or chosen obligations. In Tier 3, our chosen obligations, or duties, then have primacy for our fulfilling of actual happiness, or the good life. The duties we perform in Tier 2 are the means for which we fulfill the requirements contributing to our actual happiness in Tier 3. As chosen obligations, duties are a necessary means to achieving the good life. Happiness is the reward for a life well lived. Tier 1 potential happiness describes the required conditions if we want to pursue happiness. Tier 3 happiness describes the consequences of pursuing happiness or the good life. Value ethics believes in duty only in a Tier 2 sense. President Lorenzo Snow said, "Every principle that is revealed from the heavens is for our benefit, for our life, for our salvation, and for our happiness." Tier 2 commandments, then, are the vehicle given to conditionally get from Tier 1 happiness to Tier 3 happiness. Between our moral need to be happy and actual fulfillment of that happiness is what the Declaration of Independence calls the pursuit of happiness, something we pursue but are not guaranteed of. Only by knowing the end goal can we know the conditional means to get us there. In a Tier 1 sense, ends are the long-term goal. By knowing our end goal, it tells us the vehicle or means to choose. Only by choosing the correct means can we actually arrive at our goal. For example, understand John 5:39, where Christ said, "Search the Scriptures, for in them ye think ye have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me." Eternal life is the goal, and Christ is the only means to get there. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to the Christian Eternalism YouTube channel and visit www.christianeternalism.org.